And lo and behold, dear friends, the fall 2021 anime season has come and gone. Maybe it's just me, but this particular time around the block seemed to last far longer than prior seasons this year did. Well, regardless, we reached that point once again where, rather than burn myself trying to write numerous reviews, I'll be offering quick thoughts and summations on the anime from the season, plus what they'd be scored. Just like before, if something isn't included in this video, it's because I either didn't see it, a review of it is already in the works, or it's not finished yet at the time of recording. Therefore, shows like Platinum End or Ranking of Kings will not be featured because they're only halfway through their runs. 86's second season is on hiatus until March 2022. I didn't watch others like The Faraway Paladin, and I already made a video for others like The Heike Story, Irina the Vampire Cosmonaut, Blue Period, and Toctopus Destiny. The shows will be arranged in alphabetical order by English title if applicable, and I'll also put timestamps in the video description if you want to skip to a show you had in mind. With all that said, roll that stock piano music and let's begin. Build Divide Code Black Season 1 might be one of the more incomprehensibly made anime I've seen in a good long while, with an edginess factor that's exaggerated such to the extent that I'm half tempted to believe it's trying to be funny. I don't even really know how the titular card game is supposed to be played. Terrible pacing leaves duels feeling shoddy and cheap, not to mention entire portions skipped, as well as the plots within episodes moving too quickly to give things a good source of tension. Throw in a rather unpleasant aesthetic with a kind of washed-out glossiness, with characters who fail to provide any sense of interest or real development divorced from the edginess, and you have what I'd call one of the worst shows from fall 2021, at least among those I watched. I give Build Divide Code Black Season 1 a 2 out of 10. Kaginado demonstrates that just because you can be meta about your source material, that is not a substitute for being clever. While familiarity with the key adaptation certainly helps in making some of the jokes land, and a few of them are amusing, the series of shorts as a whole feels less like fluff and more akin to just a waste of time. I don't say that with snideness, but rather just disappointment. The fact that each episode is only 4 minutes is honestly a saving grace, because I doubt that I would have been able to tolerate seeing these chibi characters interact for even 10 minutes at a time. I give Kaginado a 3 out of 10. Komi Can't Communicate's episode quality varies greatly, as the individual chapters can range between quite funny to longing for the bit to be over. The animation and overall tone complement the bizarreness of the situations well, and when the series has its sentimental moments, they generally land. It was nice to see Komi gradually try breaking out of her shell, even if it didn't always work as she intended. The chalkboard scene especially was one of my favorite sequences from the anime season. The cast for the most part is nice, although I never really found Yamai to be a funny character with all of her tendencies. I'm not sure if I'll be checking out the manga or the second season, but I'm considering it. I give Komi Can't Communicate a 7 out of 10. Love Live Superstar boasts a chemistry-laden ensemble with colorful production values, funny comedy, and some decent arcs within a tried-and-true format. There are a couple of strong songs, with Sumire's being a particular standout, and with an ending that felt solid. Of the 5 characters, Ren is by far the least developed, in part because her character archetype does not contain enough new material to make her stand out against her past iteration. Kanon likewise suffers from the least characterization, but the 5 girls together were always fun to watch. I look forward to Season 2. I give Love Live Superstar an 8 out of 10. Mieruko-chan is a weird animal. The horror aesthetic with all of its ghosts and the humorous ways that Miko tries to ignore them works well, but the show early on is saddled with fan service that just feels a touch too unnecessary. The plot also takes a little too long to gain a sense of direction, even though individual moments in the first third do work for world-building purposes and character dynamics. It begins to hit its stride with the Tritagonist, elevating the show's comedy, horror, and gimmicks to their best levels, minimizing the fan service in the process. The sound mixing is also worth mentioning, as the ghosts' voices are given a good echoing effect. A good show, even if flawed. I give Mieruko-chan a 7 out of 10. MUTEKING the Dancing Hero is bizarre, and that's probably the most apt descriptor I can think of. Keeping both of its feet firmly planted in campiness and kitsch, it is a whirl of rainbow colors and dance such that I felt transported to another time and place. While it was occasionally funny, many of the jokes didn't quite make me laugh too much, and the garishness of its presentation did wear on me after a time. It's an anime that attempts to fully embody its silliness and absurdity, which I suppose on some level is to be commended. That said though, I couldn't stay invested in either that or the overarching story. I give MUTEKING the Dancing Hero a 4 out of 10. The Night Beyond the Tricornered window is sloppily put together, with a pacing in the first several episodes that feels like the anime is running on fast forward and a character dynamic that cannot endear itself to me. Because of this, it feels like the real potential of the series is constantly being held back. While I like the premise behind the supernatural occurrences and exorcisms, it just takes far too long to get going. I do know that it is based on a manga that I have not read, so maybe that handles the material better. For now though, I'll leave at least the anime behind. I do like its look though. I give The Night Beyond the Tricornered window a 4 out of 10. Puraore Pride of Orange is Cute Girls Doing Cute Things, the ice hockey edition. Considering that I went into the show expecting it to be precisely that, it managed to fit neatly into the little box I had in mind. I appreciate that ice hockey was featured in nearly every episode, even if I didn't necessarily learn much or gain new appreciation for the sport. It's a perfectly inoffensive little show that's just sugary sweet and playing into sports fantasy, even if it is not really moving beyond the mediocre cliches associated with the genre. It also doesn't show enough of the actual games, which is a shame. The coach is way too extra and manipulative, which I actually ended up liking. If you're going into this expecting the seriousness of hockey to be honored, take another look at the show's poster. It's not terrible, but I can't call it anything beyond mediocre. I give Puraore Pride of Orange a 5 out of 10. Sakugan, more than most other shows in fall 2021, had the potential to be a truly good show, but cannot quite close the gap. It has one of the most memorable characters of the season with Memempu as a ball of fiery gumption. The antagonistic relationship with her and Gagamba, while occasionally offering chuckles and charming moments, doesn't come across as progressing as the episodes go on. The series also loses focus on the fact that the characters are traveling to a map location, getting constantly detoured even if the detours themselves are sometimes fun. It interrupts the overall sense of danger despite attempts made at world building. The animation during action sequences is good 3D, but as a whole, the journey left me wanting more than what we got. I don't know if I'll be continuing for its second season. Also, that final twist was pretty weak and needed at least one more episode of build-up. I give Sakugan a 6 out of 10. Selection Project takes a major gamble by introducing crushing failure at the start, but then starts to double back and enters relatively conventional reality show fare. There were a couple of songs in the series that I ended up really liking, with Noisy Monster by Gapscaps being a personal favorite as well as the OP, and the CGI during some of those sequences was fluid. I admire that they did try every once in a while to keep things dramatically interesting, even though with such a large ensemble cast, most of the dramatic beats don't work quite as well as intended. It definitely tries to reach greater heights, especially at the end. It may not make it that far, but I do appreciate the effort. I give Selection Project a 6 out of 10. The Vampire Dies in No Time, while certainly having the potential for a funny comedic gag, sadly overstays its welcome. The various ways in which the main characters interact with one another starts off on a decent note, but quickly gets tired and left me wanting as far as laughs were concerned. It does have a great OP sequence though, and a strong stylism throughout, so I must give it props for that. This was easily one of the more in one ear out the other shows this season, as half the time Mondays rolled around, I forgot that I missed an episode. That doesn't quite translate to finding it entertaining, does it? I give The Vampire Dies in No Time a 4 out of 10. The world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat uses a dark tone that complements its main character's life both before and after getting isekai'd. Though it may not escape every isekai convention associated with the genre, its characters are far more intriguing than what we would ordinarily get, and the overall framing device poses many mysteries. The animation does take a dive partway through, and there is one notable moment of cinema narrative dissonance, but it keeps its darkest impulses in check. Visually and acoustically, it salvages itself in the final episode. I'm honestly surprised at how much I liked this. Tsukio Rui, what the hell have you done? I give The World's Finest Assassin Gets Reincarnated in Another World as an Aristocrat a shocking 7 out of 10. And those are my thoughts on everything else that I watched from fall 2021. I know that there were some that I missed, so perhaps I'll see those at a later date. In the meantime, what were some of your thoughts on the fall 2021 anime season? Leave your thoughts below in the comments. In the meantime, this has been ZNoteTaku. Happy viewing, everyone!